Now, the UK will conduct surveillance flights over Israel and Gaza as part of hostage rescue efforts.
Yeah, the Ministry of Defence said the government have been working to secure the release of hostages, including British nationals who've been kidnapped since the Hamas attacks began.
Well, Nadav Popplewell is now understood to be the only remaining hostage with British citizenship in Gaza. His mother, Chana, was released last week, but Nadav was kept back as a higher value hostage.
Well, we're now joined by his sister, Ayelet Svatitzky. I think I've said that right. A very good morning to you. Thank you for joining us. Do you know what happened to your sister that fateful day, October the 7th?
First of all, I want to thank you so much for having me on your show. October 7th, I woke up around 8 o'clock in the morning. My husband was on the phone, which is really unusual, so early on a Saturday. And he said something's happening in the south and I should urgently call my mum. My mum is 79 years old, and she and my brothers lived on a kibbutz called Nirim. So I grabbed my phone, and as I opened it to call mum, I saw my WhatsApp group with all my childhood friends. The WhatsApp group was exploding with messages, and I learned that there wasn't only a missile attack, but also a terrorist invasion into our kibbutz. So I called my mom frantically, and I said, "Mom, go in the safe room, lock the door, don't let anyone in." I didn't know there isn't actually a lock on the safe room's door, because it was designed to protect the people from the missiles, but not from a terrorist attack. And a few seconds later, I heard a man's voice speaking to my mom in English with an Arabic accent. So I realized immediately that the Hamas terrorists got to her. So I hung up and I called my brother Nadav, who lives next door to mom, just 10 meters away. And I said to him the same: go in the safe room, lock yourself in, don't let anyone in. And then immediately I heard the same men voices, and I realized that they got to him as well. A few minutes later, I got 2 pictures sent to my WhatsApp from my mom's phone, showing my mom and my brother sat in her living room. Underneath that, it said Hamas in English. And the third picture of my mom and my brother in the living room with a terrorist in the corner standing with a Kalashnikov, the Hamas terrorists uploaded to my mom's Facebook story. Oh. And that was, I'm sorry?
I was just saying, that's I mean, it's awful.
Yeah.
But in the wake of that, there must have been at least a sense of relief to know that they were still alive. How do you then deal with that hostage situation and knowing that your brother is now classed as a high-value hostage?
Look, it's really hard to say. It's been really turbulent, emotional weeks. My oldest brother, Roy, who also lived on that kibbutz, was murdered on October 7th. So I know what the consequences of this situation can be on a very, very personal level. My mom was released. Nadav wasn't released. The last deal was for the release of women and children, and so Nadav was not included in that category. We were hoping that once this category is finished, we're going to move on to the next one with men, elderly men, people who are injured, younger people who have been injured. But unfortunately, the deal blew up, and now we're back to the war, and we're back to fighting, and there's no negotiation for the release of the 136 hostages remaining. And I'm trying to stay hopeful. It's very difficult. My mom is also home. She had to learn of the murder of her eldest son, and the fact that Nadav is still is still a hostage. She's 79. We help her with her rehabilitation. It's just, it's a lot.
Can I ask, what would you like to see? Because there's so much concern and questioning over what Israel should do next, now that the ceasefire, this temporary ceasefire, has ended. What would you want to see the government in Israel do?
Our demand is for the government to do everything in their power to release all the hostages. I'm not a general, and I'm not a politician, and I'm not a diplomat. I don't think it's my job to give them advice and tell them how. I'm sure there are plenty of very wise people there who can figure out, think out, outside the box, come up with new ideas. I don't accept the saying that there's nothing else to do, or there's plenty to do. There's always something else, something more that can be done, and I'm expecting for whatever that is to be done, to bring all the hostages back home. I really don't know what the right route is. But I do expect my government to do everything in their power to bring those hostages home.
Absolutely, and we hope that happens for you. Thank you so much for joining us this morning. It must be torture for you and the rest of your family, but we do hope that you get good news soon. Thank you so much, Ayelet.
Thank you for having me.
This is why you need to talk to individuals. And we've not been able to talk really to people, obviously, within Gaza, but, I mean, you need to hear that side as well, of the civilians there, not the Hamas side, but the civilian side. But it's when you hear those individual stories, how do you even begin to comprehend what she is going through? Losing a brother, another brother being held hostage.
And her mother, aged 79, having been released, has to then learn of the people who were murdered on that day, people in her own family, her brother.
And then, as she says, she hasn't got any advice for the government.
No,
on
because what is your advice? Yeah.
What do you do?
Impossible and awful situation.
I mean, the concern is you extend the ceasefire and it gives Hamas more time to regroup.
And I'm not sure if they're going to be that willing to give up the remaining hostages now. The minute they give up all the hostages, or they start to give back the men, so-called considered higher value hostages than women, that's just terrible as well, isn't it? The minute they give those up, then they lose their power, don't they?
It's been very well thought through, this.
And it's so cynical and it's so savage. It's awful. But there you go.
Our thoughts with her and anyone
pray, yeah,
involved in this. Heck, it's horrific.